everybody. Welcome to Goodwood Museum and Gardens. Today it's really chilly outside, so we get to be in the beautiful Jubilee Cottage. I'm Linda Schuyler Ford, your storyteller. And this is so cool. February is National Read Aloud Month, and this week is Read Aloud Week. So instead of telling you some stories today, I thought I'd share some stories that you can read with the whole family. These are great books that are perfect for bigger kids and younger kids, and maybe they'll lead to you wanting to tell one of them. So we're going to start with this African folktale. Now, you may have heard of Anansi the Spider. Anansi is a famous character, a bit of a trickster from African folklore. And this, Anansi, A Tale from the Ashanti by Gerald McDermott, is classic. It's great for read aloud, especially with younger kids, because it's got beautiful, bright illustrations and a really funny story about Anansi the trickster. Next is one of my favorites. And what's really cool about Bill Peet is he was an author illustrator from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, so you might not have heard about him. He was one of the first illustrators for Disney, and he has a whole slew of fun, funny adventure picture books. This one is called Jennifer and Josephine, and in this story, Jennifer is an old car abandoned in a junkyard, and Josephine is the stray cat that lives in the car. And boy, do they go off on an adventure together. This is a really fun story that truly takes you to all kinds of places through the narrative and the illustration. Jennifer and Josephine by Bill Peet. And here, my friends, is a fabulous Jewish folktale loaded with humor and wisdom. It's called Too Much Noise by Anne McGovern. And in this story, a man is so fed up with all the noise of his family, his wife busy cleaning, his children loudly playing and laughing, the baby crying or cooing. And so he goes to his rabbi to ask what to do so he doesn't go crazy. And the rabbi has a really funny and very wise solution. So, too much noise. Just like Bill Peet, Don Freeman is an author-illustrator from the 50s and 60s. And Pet of the Met is one of my all-time favorite stories. In it, a mouse lives in the Metropolitan Museum. I'm sorry, there is another one with a mouse living in a museum. Pet of the Met has a mouse living in the Opera House. And you'll see the work that the mouse does and the adventure that the mouse has in this Opera House. You think everybody's a fan of him being there? Probably not, and that might be where the story begins. Now, if you like fairy tales, or if you like Jane Yolen has written so many fantasy books. She also has rewritten several fairy tales in what's called a fractured fairy tale, where you twist the story a bit. In this one, it's about Sleeping Ugly. I think you will find this really funny, and you'll be inspired to take a fairy tale and fracture it yourself, change things up. Like, what if Little Red Riding Hood was going to visit her grandmother who ran a bakery? And the wolf was just really somebody with a terrible sweet tooth. You can change up all kinds of fairy tales. Read this and get some great ideas. Sleeping Ugly by Jane Yolen. Here's a whole collection of stories. This is Play Me a Story. It's 9 tales about musical instruments. So as you read aloud or learn to tell these stories, there'll be places where you can act out playing all kinds of instruments, beating a drum, playing a trumpet, and the instruments are all important parts of each story. Now, Margaret Reed MacDonald is a folklorist who has contributed greatly to the world of storytelling and folk tales. She has all kinds of collections, a book called 3-Minute Stories, 5-Minute Stories, Earth Cares, many others, collections of stories as well as picture books. This one, Peace Tales. And you will find that stories of peace are full of guidance on conflict resolution, but they're also infused with a lot of humor and silliness that bring us around to that wisdom. Peace Tales by Margaret Reed MacDonald is a great one for family read aloud. Now here's a different kind of idea. If you'd like to maybe consider reading this from the same book over a week or two, I recommend James and the Giant Peach. This is a story that I read to my nephew, 1 chapter a night before he went to sleep. It's by Roald Dahl. You've probably seen the movie. He also wrote Matilda. You will love the book version, James and the Giant Peach. And another plus is that it's going to be accessible for children from the ages of about 4 or 5 all the way up to 8, 9, or 10. So great for family reading. And here, this story is called The Drum. It is a story, a folktale from India about how somebody ends up getting something they really, really want. Has there ever been something that you really, really wanted? And maybe it took a long time to get it. Maybe you got it right away. Well, this is going to be an unusual route to this boy finally getting the drum that he has wanted. The Seeing Stick is a newer book. It's set in China. It has beautiful illustrations and is a story filled with both danger and great goodness. The Seeing Stick is one of those books that if you read it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to think about it every once in a while. The Seeing Stick. Here's another story from Africa. This one is called Why Mosquitos Buzz in People's Ears. It was written by Vera Ardema. Now, when I say written, she collected stories from Africa and from other countries around the world, stories that people only told. And she collected them and wrote them down so that other people would be able to read and share these stories. This is what's called a cumulative tale, where something happens that leads to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and you keep repeating lines, so it's got cool rhythm to it too. And beautiful illustrations of all the animals involved in creating the story of why mosquitoes buzz in people's ears. Do you know the work of Tommy DePaula? He was a prolific writer and illustrator. And this story, The Legend of the Bluebonnet, is a legend from Texas. Now, every year in February and March, all along the highways, all along the open fields, there are hundreds of thousands, probably millions and millions of bluebonnets. Little purpley blue flowers that create this wave of color, and they are beautiful to see. There are people who travel to Texas in February and March just to see these flowers. And this story tells you of how those flowers came to be because of this one little girl. The Legend of the Bluebonnet by Tommy DePaola. And now, Ming moves a mountain. This is a story filled with whimsy and an important lesson that you will probably figure out even if Ming doesn't. Ming Moves a Mountain by Arnold Lobel. He's the same man that wrote all the frog and toad stories that you probably know. Couple more. This one, Dregenona, is one of Tommy DePaola's first books. And he's written a few more about Dregenona, which means grandmother witch, and Big Anthony, her helper, who's not the smartest guy, and he doesn't have the best energy. And sometimes those things will entertain you tremendously. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be telling this story very soon. I have two fairy tales for you. The challenge with fairy tales, sometimes the problem with fairy tales is that we miss them because we think we know them. You know the Three Bears. You know Little Red Riding Hood. But if you haven't actually read the book or heard the story performed, you miss all the feels, all the excitement and the danger. You miss all the beautiful language that moves the story ahead. So this version of Hansel and Gretel is a perfect example of that. It is a beautifully written and illustrated story. You truly feel yourself moving through the woods with Hansel and Gretel, returning home that first time. You can feel yourself moving through the dark woods at night when they are abandoned. So go back and find those fairy tales that you think you know and read the full story. You'll be amazed at how rich and experienced that can be for the family. One more story I want to share with you, and it's another fairy tale that is not quite so famous perhaps and really should be read by everyone. Snow White and Rose Red, and it is one of the stories that the Brothers Grimm collected. This particular edition is illustrated by Barbara Cooney in pen and ink, which is riveting. You can look at these pictures and pick out all kinds of information that feeds the story and moves it forward. Snow White and Rose Red is about two sisters and the strange little man and a bear. Read aloud. It is so fun for a family to gather together with maybe some hot chocolate or popcorn, snuggle under a blanket, or sit out on the porch and share a story together. You will find that it is some of the best family time you can share. I'm Linda Schuyler Ford here at the beautiful Goodwood Museum and Gardens. I look forward to seeing you again. Take good care and go read a book.